Liberals and conservatives are more similar than you think. So depending on, who you ask, for instance, most leftists, a lot of people actually do think that this is the case. At least in the US, liberals sort of fall in a pretty big tent category. You've got some liberals who are center-right, some liberals who are more center, and some liberals who are more center-left, putting it in very broad terms. With conservatives, you're either right or far right or further, pretty much. Now, there is an additional category beyond this, the actual left. You sort of go over here, you get to more center left, left, far left, etc. But it looks like we leftists are not going to be represented in this video. I can already tell by Destiny being here that this is going to be a pretty frustrating video from a leftist perspective, because in a lot of ways this is absolutely true, and we, at least on the left, didn't need a video like this to know this. At this point, the main difference between liberals and conservatives, at least in the US, comes down to social issues. Liberals tend to be okay with gay people and trans people. If you go to like center left, they're generally more aware of various other people's marginalization and are in broad terms open to trying to close those gaps. Conservatives aren't like that at all. Either they don't think that marginalization exists or they think it's a good thing. Where liberals and conservatives are more similar comes down to, at least, in the United States politically, is economics. Liberals tend to be more open to capitalism than actual people on the left. They generally are more open to regulation than conservatives are. Conservatives tend to be more open to free markets. But yeah, in the eyes of actual leftists, they generally dislike liberals as much as conservatives, if not more, depending on the leftist community you find yourself in. They will be criticizing liberals way more than your average conservative, often equating them. There's a subreddit called Shit Liberals Say. It's a leftist communist subreddit, and most of the time they're shitting on what most liberals would more closely associate with conservatives. I would, generally speaking, delineate between liberals and conservatives for most things, but a lot of people on the left, the far left, quote unquote, would more equate these two. But the more similar than you think aspect, it comes through in a lot of ways. I remember when Anna Kasparian debated Ben Shapiro, she's supposed to be a progressive liberal, that center-left variety, and half of that video was her just agreeing with Ben Shapiro, a far-right nutjob, on almost everything. You'll hear leftists say, scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds, things like that. And that's what frustrates me a lot of the time when I watch these jubilees, is that they'll pit liberals against conservatives, but they're, in a lot of ways, more similar than you think. I would like these Jubilee videos if they platformed actual left-wing thought more, but it's just not as common. They do it sometimes, but not very often. So let's jump right into it. Liberals and conservatives are more similar than you think.
There is a lot of infighting on the right that I think makes us look very bad. One thing about liberals, you guys really do stick together and you actually get work done, even when I don't agree with it.
From my perspective as a liberal...
Wait, what? Liberals are organized? Is that what he's trying to say? I will say, conservatives... I will critique liberals all day. It's basically what I do. But conservatives, man, they are on another fucking planet of delusional. I think my stance is, both from a leftist perspective, both are sort of over the line of not great, but one is, from my perspective, significantly more over the line of not great. I would generally argue that conservatives are less splintered than people to the left of them. So when you're stuck with tons of nuance in the more liberal positions or the more left positions, you're going to get a lot more splintering. Conservatives agree on almost everything with one another. Genocide trans people and give the rich more money. That is where conservative thought starts and stops these days. So I don't know what the fuck my man over here is talking about.
I sometimes see y'all sticking really hard together.
Yeah, that's the thing. In reality, that's closer to what it is. The idea that liberals and leftists especially, holy shit, I've only dipped my toe into actual leftism, and leftist infighting, leftist disagreements is the most bizarre shit I've ever seen. For a group of people, I'm talking about leftists, who are so focused on solidarity, on cooperation, They will stick their canines in one another's throat over the most petty shit you can imagine. So no, I don't think liberals on the left, and I think for this video, I'm gonna have to equate the left with liberals, because when most people talk about the left in the United States contextually, they say liberal. Most conservatives would call me a liberal because I'm to their left, somewhere to their left. But anyway.
Like, no matter what, we're gonna vote red.
Yeah, like I'm hearing liberals saying we're not going to vote for Biden if he's on the ticket against Trump. I ain't hear none of that from Republicans. No fucking way, dude. Is that Amala? Bro. If you've been watching me for a while, I've got like a one-sided beef with her. She is awful. A literal fucking demon. She is a pro at spreading propaganda. She takes the worst ideas, the most dog shit conservative beliefs, and distills them in a way that makes it sound reasonable. That's why she has her job at PragerU or whatever. And then obviously Destiny, he sucks in his own way. I haven't watched too much Destiny, but whenever I watch him, it's the most frustrating thing I'll ever watch, because it's like he almost gets to a point where he's gonna reach the correct conclusion, and then frustratingly every single time takes the wrong turn and picks the most bullshit centrist fucking liberal position on any issue. It's really weird. It's like he is a robot. It's like he was crafted in a lab to be the most frustratingly fucking liberal entity to ever exist. Whatever mad fucking scientist created this asshole did an incredible job. Also, he just seems like kind of an asshole anecdotally. Like the very few things I've seen from him, his behavior just does not pass the vibe check for me.
The far left and the far right are equally problematic.
Okay, so I'll try and answer this one from my perspective. No, the far left and the far right are not equally problematic. Now, I'm gonna guess most of these people, including fucking Destiny, are gonna be like, Bernie Sanders is the far left. Like, that is already like, holy shit, how much more left can you go than Bernie Sanders? Meanwhile, people on the actual left are like, holy shit, Bernie Sanders does not go nearly fucking enough. So when these guys say far left, they're probably talking about Bernie Sanders. Progressive liberals. That's who they're saying is far left. Not actual socialists, not communists. I'm sure they would equate them. They would say Bernie Sanders is closer to a communist than he is to these liberals, which is just not true. Every communist will tell you that Bernie Sanders is closer to fucking Ben Shapiro than he is to actual leftists. So from that perspective, from the way they're asking this question, the intent of far left, no, absolutely not. Bernie Sanders and progressive liberals are not as problematic as the far right. The actual far left, meaning, you know, in the most broad terms, don't jump down my throat, folks. In the most broad terms, communists, tankies, those type of folks versus the far right. Now, the far right is another term that we should define here. Like, are we talking literal Nazis, like actual neo-Nazis as the far right? I would say they're in there, but I would also include people like Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, most of the modern Republican Party, I would call far right at this point. You could go further right, again, to literal neo-Nazis. So when I say far right, I'm honestly including most of the Republican Party at this point in terms of too far right. Because if you want like right or center right, you're starting to reach Democrats at this point. Democrats are like, elected Democrats are not giving us left-wing policies. Where's our paid family leave? Where's universal health care? Where's prison reform? Where's climate change reform? Where's ending third world exploitation? Where's ending domestic exploitation? Those are what the left want, and the Democrats aren't doing any of that. The Democrats are supporting capitalism, which is a right-wing idea. But anyway, they're not equally problematic in the sense that the far left has no power. The far right has hundreds of people elected to office today. There's nobody on the fucking left elected anywhere. Seattle had a socialist city council member for a little while. She's gone. And she was a democratic socialist, which is like the rightmost leftist type you can be from a leftist perspective. So no, the far left has no power. And if we're saying progressive liberals are the far left in this question, they're not a problem at all because they're correct on a lot of stuff, especially with social issues, especially, progressive liberals, at least, the Bernie Sanders variety, at least understand there is a problem to be addressed of inequality. Joe Brandon Democrats, they don't believe any of that. That's your center-right Democrats. So real leftists have no power. Progressive liberals barely have any power, and those guys are center-left. Bernie Sanders is center-left, so he really shouldn't be in this conversation, but unfortunately, he probably will be among the type that will be brought up here. So no, the far left has no power. The far right has tons of power. Fascism is hugely on the rise all over the fucking planet. The far left, it's like, bro, I just want to give you healthcare. I just want to use the 1/10 of the United States military budget that it would take to feed everyone on the fucking planet. That's like not hyperbole. That's what it would cost to end world hunger, a fraction of the US military budget. The idea that those ideas are just as problematic as we need to genocide the entire trans community is fucking ridiculous to me. But anyway, let's hear how this goes.
3, 2, 1.
Destiny strongly agree. Most people agree. A couple people disagree. Let's see.
I've actually seen both sides. I'm a gay conservative, and I have seen the far right chastise me for my sexuality, and I've seen the far left chastise me for being conservative.
Dog, you can control being a fucking dumbass. You can't control being gay. There is no logical reason to chastise someone for being gay. There is zero reason to chastise someone over that. There is plenty of reason to critique someone's political ideology. To equate chastising someone over their sexual preference versus chastising someone over their political opinions is fucking monumentally stupid. You would have to be on your 4th fucking lobotomy to make a stupid fucking statement like that.
I've had my own address put on the freeway here in Los Angeles because they feel that my voice should not be out there. So I see the two sides actively doing harm to those of us in the middle who have a really rational voice and want to express our...
The middle! Bro, the Overton window has been nuked. It hasn't been moved. It's been fucking nuked.
...ourselves in a safe way.
I appreciate the anecdotal experience that you had, but I think my issue saying that liberals are more problematic, I think
the question wasn't liberals. The question was the far left and the far right are equally problematic. The far left don't want liberals. They don't want to touch you. Like I said, they hate you more than they hate conservatives. So, oh my God, this video is going to melt my fucking brain.
I think everyone is.
What I talk about in my anecdotal incident is where I have never had a conservative physically attack me on the streets for what I am or who I am. They may verbally attack me.
Once again, conservatives doing the thing that I hate more than anything on the fucking planet. And that is basing their entire worldview on individual anecdotes or what they themselves have personally experienced. Okay, you were never physically attacked on the street for being gay. My brother, do you know anything about the history of how conservatives have treated gay people in this country? I'm not even talking about the history. Just because you haven't been attacked today, gay people are attacked and harassed all the fucking time today. And just for the record, I straight up do not believe any fucking liberal physically harmed this man. And if they did, again, That is an individual anecdote that you should not whatsoever use to base your opinion. If one liberal punched me right now, like, I would not go, shit, all liberals must be awful, and I'm going to become a conservative now. I'm going to start having conservative viewpoints. It's this fucking, like, aesthetics-based, civility fucking politics bullshit that I detest. A liberal was mean to me, which is why I'm a conservative. A liberal was mean to me, so I completely disregard the science of climate change. I'm anti-abortion, I'm anti-trans rights, I'm anti-prison reform, I'm anti-taxes on the rich, because a liberal was mean to me once.
I've got that from the left too, but the left has physical attacks on my physical being out on the streets because I'm expressing myself.
So I mean,
Multiple.
the opposite for myself. So like, you know, like experiences,
God, what a fucking idiot.
as I said, anecdotal. Like,
Right.
you know, like your experience, completely valid, but just say,
No, not really.
oh,
There's no systemic problem of liberals physically attacking conservatives. And even if that did happen, it'd be bad. But ultimately, it wouldn't really have much of a material effect on what your political views should be on liberal versus conservative topics. But again, now what there is a systemic problem that does exist is, you know, LGBTQ people being physically attacked all over the fucking planet. The amount of places with fucking laws that will result in your death or imprisonment for being gay or being trans or whatever is off the fucking charts. I don't know, bro. Maybe you need one more lobotomy. Maybe your fifth lobotomy would actually set you straight. Because holy shit, I don't mean straight like turn you for being gay to straight. But whatever.
liberals are like, you know, worse.
Right.
Like,
Well, it's not that there's no one worse, which is why I didn't move to strongly agree. My anecdotal experience tells me that there is a group of people on both sides that will do active harm to someone who steps out of their expected narrative.
I feel like for
Yeah. If you get anything out of this video, if you're a conservative, sorry for making fun of you this whole time. If anyone gets anything out of this, I don't care if you're a liberal, conservative, a leftist, or anything in between, do not use personal anecdotes to define your worldview. Analyze systems, not anecdotes. Please. Holy shit.
when we talk about political extremes, I think one, there is a lack of desire for bipartisanship. The second thing is this kind of like playful attachment to
Bro. A lack of desire for bipartisanship. I hate this shit. This is literally the most fucking liberal thing I've ever heard in my life. Bipartisanship over what? There is one fucking answer on trans rights. There is one fucking answer on gay rights. There is one fucking answer on the scientific consensus on anthropogenic climate change. There is one answer on how we should treat prisoners. One answer on how we should, or whether we should limit this level of socioeconomic inequality we all are experiencing. Bipartisanship over what, Destiny? It's not about bipartisanship. It's about convincing somehow the chuds that they're wrong. Conservatives are wrong about 99% of the things they believe. Center-right liberals are wrong about 95% of the things they believe. It's not about bipartisanship. It's about analyzing systems, analyzing the facts, analyzing data, and coming up with the truth, coming up with what is the closest we can reach to reality. Fuck bipartisanship. For about 95% of issues, there are no two valid opinions. Whether or not you should be able to get an abortion in the United States, there's no bipartisanship. There is one correct answer to that question, one objectively correct answer to that topic. So fuck this liberal, centrist, bipartisan bullshit. I'm over this shit, dude.
facts. People on the far left and the far right, whether we're talking about Israel-Palestine or vaccines, people seem to have like very fun activities in terms of just completely making stuff up regarding these two things. And then the third thing is the demonization of political opponents, where people on the far left and the far right engage in this idea that the people on the opposite side of the aisle, they're not just different or have different ideas, they actually hate the country, they want to destroy us.
You know, people get labeled as
Yeah, conservatives 100% think liberals hate the country and they want to destroy us. That is what they're told every single day by their media, whether it's the talking heads or whether it's the actual media outlets themselves. They're told that liberals are engaging in an active, conscious conspiracy to harm Americans, to destroy America or whatever the fuck. Liberals don't think that. Leftists certainly don't think that of liberals or conservatives. Leftists just think you're engaging with reality in the wrong way. They don't think there's some active conspiracy to destroy America. Oh my God. No, I don't think Joe Schmo conservative wants to destroy America. I think that their policies will destroy America and the world or whatever, but they're not intentionally doing it. But conservatives do think liberals and the left are intentionally trying to destroy, America or the world or whatever. Now, there's some truth to that. Leftists will be like, actually, I do want to end America's global hegemony, but that is a separate topic that requires a lot of nuance to discuss. Anyways.
As extremists just for being even pretty centrist, based on our small conversation we've already had here. I don't think anyone here is extreme.
No.
But going down the street, you might get labeled, crazy leftist or racist or.
I had to take his shirt off, for real.
It's interesting because when answering this prompt, I sort of hesitated. I've been
Demon.
on both sides of the spectrum.
She hasn't. Check out my video debunking her. She was never on both sides of the spectrum. It's absolute bullshit.
Used to be what I would characterize as a radical leftist. Now I'm.
She was never a fucking radical leftist. She was like kind of a liberal, I guess. A liberal who never really understood or could fully quantify the things she believed in, which is common, and that is an issue in and of itself. But she never actually understood the things she believed in, which were liberal beliefs. Radical left, not even in the same universe of how I would describe Amala before she became a right-wing reactionary talking head. So either, again, she's engaging in bad faith. She has no clue what the left actually means, especially radical left or far left. Or she's just a fucking dumbass. And she's certainly not a dumbass. Just more evidence that she is 100% engaging in bad faith. But I'm going to try and not dwell on it too much. I have several videos debunking her if you want to check those out.
I'm sort of right of center, and
Shut the fuck up. You're a PragerU talking head. You're earning millions of dollars from PragerU. Right of center. Shut the fuck up. Again, that is just to make her really fucking radical. Far right beliefs sound palatable. Oh, I'm just kind of right of center. She is a far right activist. She knows exactly what she's doing. Right of fucking center. Jesus Christ.
I feel like I get characterized as a far right extremist
Cut.
quite a bit.
She
so
is.
I was thinking, what does far
Don't get it twisted. She is a far right extremist.
right even mean? Because so many people who I deem to be reasonable are characterized as far right, and I'm sure people on the left feel that very same way. I've gone and spoken to different campuses, both as a leftist and as a right of center individual. And
As a leftist, bro, watch my video like leftists who are real leftists. Watch my video debunking her and tell me, and come back and drop how many laughing emojis you would use to describe her calling herself a leftist. She's calling herself a former leftist. And when you hear the context of who she was and the things she said when she was a leftist, you would lose your fucking mind. She was never a leftist, dude. Fucking wild, dude.
And I've never received more hatred or people trying to cancel my events
Go fuck yourself.
than coming to those campuses as a conservative speaker.
Because they're not fucking stupid. They know you're there to spread right-wing shitty propaganda. You're not there in good faith. There's nothing there you're going there to say in good faith.
Well, do you think that's because some of that rhetoric causes a lot of harm on the right side? Like a lot of the things that are being said maybe in those talks can have lasting impacts on those students when you're on those campuses. So and in the other way, like the conservative
She's so
students might not
fucking
like
awful,
care
dude.
as much about, like, oh, like progress is being talked about, like, like I think like there's
Perfect example is Dylan
different-
Mulvaney just spoke at the University of Penn. They are free to
Shut the fuck up, you garbage piece of shit, dude.
go and have a talk. Conservatives didn't come out and try to cancel that event. They
Bro, of all people, of anyone on the left to talk about not being canceled, you're about to pull out Dylan Mulvaney? Dylan, I'm gonna shoot a machine gun at a case of Bud Light. Mulvaney? It's like, yeah, dog. There's like 5 conservatives on college campuses. Maybe it'll be harder to cancel Dylan Mulvaney on a college campus than it would be to cancel a fucking demon like Amala over here. But the example Mario over here whipped out to be like, conservatives don't cancel people. Look at Dylan Mulvaney. That is bananas. My man will have to go for his 6th lobotomy. 5 will not be enough. I'm going to tell you straight up.
didn't threaten staff. They didn't blockade the entrances. They let that event go on. Amala goes to speak, and there's rallies. They're pulling fire alarms. They're attacking the attendees. There is extremism.
I'm
We
sure
just have-
that there is, but I don't think Dylan Mulvaney is the right person to use.
Straight up! Ricky's got it, bro! Holy shit. I can't believe that fucking happened, bro. Conservatives. Y'all, please pay attention. Pay attention in your 4th grade class. Pay attention in your 5th grade class. Don't end up like Mario here, please. You got the two spectrums of conservative here. You've got the dumbest guy who's ever lived, Mario over here. And you've got an extremely smart person, but a horrible fucking sociopathic monster in Amala.
For your example, because of how much
She's a leftist.
she's a leftist, but she's also
Is she even a leftist? Like, I don't know anything about Dylan Mulvaney. Honestly, I don't know. My girlfriend watches her on TikTok. That's all I know. Is she an actual, like, leftist? I'm sure she's a liberal and probably more progressive-minded in general. But is she a leftist? I don't know. Can someone tell me who might watch Dylan Mulvaney?
had her life threatened on multiple occasions.
Right.
She's had to move around a lot because her address continuously is doxxed, and she wasn't even speaking at any sort of event. She was given a free Bud Light can, and her life was threatened.
I think something that's really important to keep in mind, given the entirety of the show actually, is when we talk about like canceling or attacking people, the reality is if you have the power to do it, you will do it. And on college campuses, the prevailing thought right now is generally progressivism. So if they can cancel or if they can bully conservative speakers off campus, they'll do that. But then right now, because conservatives don't have power on college campuses or in some forms of media, they'll say, well, the left is pro-cancel culture. No offense to conservatives. You don't get credit for saying, well, we didn't try to cancel somebody on college campus. Yeah, that's because there's like 10 of you. You couldn't do it even.
Yeah, he's approximately right here for sure. That's it. I mean, it's pretty much what I said.
If you wanted to, right? Like, obviously you're not doing it, right?
I think there's way more conservative students than I think people actually give credit to, but maybe they feel like they need to, harbor those beliefs internally rather than, espouse them out loud. And I will say, any conservative who wants to shut down an event or a speech, I would wholly disagree with.
There should not be limitations on free speech.
There should absolutely be limitations on free speech. You can't yell fire in a movie theater. The problem with limiting free speech, when I say I want to limit free speech, I want to limit bad faith free speech. I don't want to limit ideas necessarily. There's nothing that I think, I don't think I should be able to hear, things that I don't want to hear it because I'm worried it's gonna fuck me over or change my beliefs in a bad way. There's nothing that I feel I shouldn't hear, personally. The problem is, and I'll include myself here too, people are very impressionable. And so I understand, especially with people on the left who look at a lot of these, leftist governments who have harsh restrictions on free speech that they would argue are in favor of, maintaining social cohesion, preventing dumbass reactionary thought from taking hold, and preventing them from accomplishing the things they want to accomplish. There's a part of me that vaguely understands where they're coming from with those arguments. Based on all the learning I've done in the last year on, leftism, I'm generally more open to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, things like that, than a lot of people on the left seem to be. I get called a liberal from leftists a lot of the time because I'm generally more open to free speech. But again, I'm open to good faith free speech. The problem is defining bad faith free speech is a slippery slope. I do believe that. Who gets to define that? How obvious does it need to be? And to whom? Like, to me, Amala back here is obviously always acting in bad faith with her free speech. She's using her free speech to spread terrible beliefs that are going to hurt people intentionally, and she should probably not be platformed. I don't know exactly where I stand on what are reasonable limitations on free speech, if they are ultimately worth it even. I don't fully know what my stance is on this. In the broadest terms possible, I do think reasonable limits on free speech are okay. But in terms of, very broadly speaking, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, in terms of the government imposing, free speech restrictions on the press, like, a part of me is like, the government probably should not have much say in, limiting the speech of the press. But then you have obvious bad faith actors like Fox News. And it makes me want to fucking be like, well, maybe we should restrict that shit, honestly. And then I'm just like, it's a slippery slope. I think if everyone was smarter and more capable of critical thinking, information dissemination, I would be significantly more open to free speech because, again, I don't think there's no speech that I would prevent myself from hearing. I think I could handle it. I think I could hear anything and still come out with approximately the right worldview, generally speaking. But that's not the case for a lot of people. And I know I sound conceited saying that. I don't know how else to put it. Everyone probably feels that way about themselves. No one thinks they're more naive than someone else. But the reality is some of us are. Again, I don't have a hard and fast answer on this. I'm certainly not a free speech absolutist. I don't think anyone is. None of these people who are about to say I'm a free speech absolutist are. It's proven time and time again that whenever a conservative claims to be a free speech absolutist, they will attempt to impose as many limits to free speech as fucking possible. The best, most obvious example of this is Elon Musk's when he bought Twitter. So again, broadly speaking, I think reasonable limits on free speech should exist. What those are, how they're defined, who defines them, I don't really know. If we were all just smarter, better critical thinkers, better educated, better able to disseminate information, there would be no problems. That's what I think we should go to. That's what all of our governments should be doing. Anyone who actually cares about making the world a better place should be quadrupling their education budget. Not to say school education is the only way to become smarter and educated and, a good information disseminator. I don't think it is, and I don't think the structure of how we do school will work for everyone. And there are plenty of people who are smart and good critical thinkers and who can disseminate information well, who don't do well in that system. I'm not saying it'll work for everyone, but for most people, it's better than nothing. In a world where everyone is a lot smarter and more empathetic and more capable of information dissemination, in that world, I'm a libertarian. No fucking laws, no government needed, honestly. If everyone is able to act in good faith, positively to other people, then what's the fucking problem? And I honestly think humanity can get there. And I honestly think that education is the key. You will hear me say this in every fucking video. So I don't even know if I answered this question, but let's see.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, I hate this prompt. Because we all agree that like direct calls to violence are not acceptable, I imagine.
Right.
We all agree like you can't scream fire in a theater. Otherwise, I think that like there should be
Stop taking my talking points, Destiny. I hate you. Stop making it sound like we agree with each other.
Nazis on college campuses, like doing their ideology. You should be allowed to say basically whatever rhetoric you want, as long as it's not like violating the terms of service of a platform. I do agree that vaccine misinformation is harmful. I do agree that misinformation relating to conspiracy theories is harmful, but I don't think the proper way to go about addressing that is to lock it all down and to ban it. I like the steps that YouTube has taken where they might put a note under the video.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, lock it all down. Like, there's no vaccine misinformation that I could read. Again, I'm sorry if I sound conceited. Fuck it. I don't care. I don't think there's any vaccine misinformation that I could hear that will convince me that like COVID vaccines are dangerous or whatever. I think I can fact check well enough. I think I can disseminate information well enough to know what's trustworthy and what isn't. But that just clearly isn't the case for a lot of people. So in that sense, should we hide? You know, should we deplatform COVID misinformation so that those more, you know, impressionable, malleable people won't hear that COVID misinformation? Maybe. Again, what he's talking about with YouTube doing that is a good thing, and that is a step in educating people, honestly. So yeah, that's my answer. Just we should, me included, we should all be smarter. We should all be better critical thinkers. We should all be better able to disseminate information, and then we won't need to limit free speech. We won't need to limit what people see or hear. But we're just not there yet. And so it makes sense to me that platforms would want to not allow that, generally speaking. Like Musk Twitter, they would really clamp down on like COVID misinformation, let's say. On Musk Twitter, you can spread whatever incorrect COVID conspiracies you want. And it's just dangerous. Thousands will die because of it. 1 million people died of COVID in the US that could have been prevented if this kind of misinformation, either wasn't spread or wasn't seen. Maybe if it wasn't seen, a lot more people wouldn't be dead. But again, I think that's a Band-Aid solution. Preventing people from seeing that type of stuff is a Band-Aid solution. The real solution is get people smart enough to where they won't buy COVID misinformation. Get people smart enough to where you won't need to limit free speech. That's where I stand on this. And I'm sorry if I sound elitist or conceited or whatever. It is what it is. Tell me your thoughts in the comments on this, because I know this part is going to be contentious, even to people on the left, even to liberals, etc. Anyway.
Or what Twitter, or the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, called X, is taking, where they have like the community note system.
I was thinking the very same thing as you. Of course, there are certain things that you cannot do, even with free speech being present. And I'm not sure how you define hate speech. So with some of the hate speech laws that are coming about, I think those need to be reevaluated and maybe rolled back, because even people who we disagree with or we don't like or we view as evil should still be able to espouse their beliefs.
Right. For example, right now, what's going on with students on campus, I don't agree that Congress and other individuals should limit what students are talking about on campus, what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in Israel, with the crackdown on JVP, the crackdown on Students for Justice for Palestine. The people who are in power should understand that students are the most, I would say, abrasive when it comes to speaking out against injustices.
I'm a free speech absolutist. I think that there should be...
No, you're not. No one is a free speech absolutist. The people who will say that are going to be the most restrictive on free speech, honestly.
Repercussions to certain free speech, but it's a constitutional right, and yeah, that's where I stand with it. Yeah, I don't want any apps being banned. Right. I don't want people being banned from certain apps, and I think there's an attack on our First Amendment right now. Yeah.
So you think no one should be banned from platform?
Absolutely not.
So like someone calls me like the F slur, you like leave them?
Yeah.
Why?
I get called
because that's their right to say that. Now, you can, there should be measures taken where, like I said, there are repercussions to certain speech. I don't think the platform should be able to remove them, but I think you should have the right to block them like we already can now, because I've lost 3 Instagram profiles just for saying, oh, I don't think a children should have sex changes under the age of 18.
Cap.
Accounts gone. Like, I've lost thousands of followers and stuff for just saying things that I think are just common
I do have a
sense,
question
so.
for you, actually.
Yeah.
Because I can understand why, like, hearing a word like that is harmful, and it's not something that you want to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather know who's homophobic, though? Wouldn't you rather know who's racist?
Yeah.
These platforms have the right, as private businesses, to say what they want on those businesses. It's not cancel culture for them to take down slurs. And honestly, they're not that great at taking down slurs anyway. Because I get called a on a daily basis online just for being a Jewish person.
Fortunate thing is this internet and social media has become the town square. And the town square, if you were to take a box and put it in the town square, there is no limit on what you can say. And who's to say the city's gonna come down and say, you use the word and we're gonna take your soapbox and you can't ever come back to my city? That's exactly what you're doing when you're saying the platform has every right to remove this language.
You have the option.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you can get abstract here and be like, spreading slurs like that, spreading those ideas can have as much material harm as yelling fire in a movie theater. I think that there is a reasonable argument that can be found there. Now, it's a complex argument. It's a nuanced argument that makes it really difficult to clamp down and like choose the right way to go about it. Because again, I do see the argument that it could be a slippery slope, but they're bringing up good points. Like, should calling someone, a slur be legal? That is a question worth discussing.
To go to another platform. There's plenty of
So we have an option to go to another city then.
There's plenty of conservative platforms.
Now you have no free speech.
You have free speech because you have so many options.
I think we have to be really careful when we talk about the concept of free speech. I like the concept of free speech, and I would defend that across multiple platforms, but that's fundamentally different than the First Amendment. The First Amendment has nothing to do with like the concept of free speech. Right. The First Amendment prohibits Congress or state or local governments from making laws specifically abridging your right to freedom of speech. Like, hate speech laws don't exist in the United States because there's not hate speech. Hate can be an aggravator to an existing crime, but we don't outlaw certain types of speech. Twitter does not have a legal obligation. It's a violation of their First Amendment right to say they have to host whatever type of speech or tweet that somebody has on the platform.
And a hate crime and a hate incident are two different things too. And I wanted to say, like, if somebody called you, the F word, and then they said they wanted to kill you, then that's a hate crime.
Bingo.
And that's not protected, right?
Correct.
But a hate incident, somebody could call you an F word and not say they want to kill you, and that's still protected.
Exactly. It could be an
free
aggravating
speech.
circumstance to an existing crime, but
Again, so the only way it becomes, if they literally say, I want to, kill you, that's when it becomes a problem. I don't know. Those slurs, there is something implicit in there about dehumanizing you, about, like, I guess it doesn't go as far as literally saying, I want to kill you or to be dead or something. But if that's past the line of free speech, I think calling someone a slur like that is kind of close, frankly. Close to that, honestly. Again, maybe it's frustrating people watching this that I really don't have a clear answer on what this should be, but I don't know.
you can call somebody whatever you want, and it's not,
I often criticize my own political party.
Well, I mean, in the United States, I vote for Democrats. I wouldn't say they're my political party. I criticize Democrats all the fucking time. But at this point, I am significantly more to the left than the Democratic Party. In terms of like my own political views, like I guess you would say I'm a leftist. I do criticize leftists fairly often as well. And I think that that's a healthy thing to do. I do think both, conservatives, Republicans, are too lenient on their party, and Democrats and liberals are too lenient on their party.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah. No one's going to be like, oh, I guess, yeah, most reasonable people, even if they don't criticize their party like most conservatives do, honestly, they're going to at least say they do. You know what I mean?
I see that you're on the disagree side.
I
though.
am.
Like,
I'm just sitting here
what
listening.
brought you there?
What brought me here is because I tend to be a more, I guess you could say, traditional conservative in that I don't like to speak ill of my own party. I just don't. For me to go out and air their dirty laundry out where everyone can see it is only going to put a blemish on them. And I always want to put my best foot forward, and I always want to put my party's best foot forward. But I will point out the instances where I disagree with them privately so that they can make the necessary changes.
Gotta ask, I'm so sorry, because you said you were a Trump supporter, right?
Yes.
This must be like the thing you hate the most about him, then, right? Because isn't Trump like the most
But
like
here-
anti-Republican attacks
But
his
here's
own
the
party?
thing, I come from a community where we found our power in local government. I've separated myself from this idea that I'm gonna speak poorly about Trump because I want him to put his best foot forward.
I wish more liberals did that, to be honest. I think a lot of liberals, we tend to bash our party on the social media platforms, or when we protest a lot, right? But I think when it comes to going to these city council meetings, going to Congress, writing our elected officials, we tend to fall back on that, and we rely on social media, and we rely on demonstrations.
There is a lot of infighting on the right that I think makes us look very bad. One thing about liberals, you guys really do stick together and you actually get work done, even when I don't agree with it. Whereas the right, with people like us, I feel like they see gay Republicans or conservatives as useful idiots, to be honest. That's why I kind of take issue with saying that I'm a gay conservative or gay Republican. They don't try to cast a wide net to bring new people over, whereas liberals do.
From my perspective as a liberal, I sometimes see y'all sticking really hard together. And y'all are like, no matter what, we're gonna vote red. Like, y'all seem very unified, even though you're talking about like public, like there's like internal discourse. But like, I feel like liberals feel like there's a lot of internal discourse amongst us. We're always yelling at each other.
Well, that's interesting because Democrats, they're winning a lot more elections right now. You know, and that's another critique I have of the Republican Party. You know, the midterm elections, they completely blew it. They put out a lot of bad candidates. The left didn't do that. They put a lot
policies. It's like the right stays
The
stuck
left.
on.
God, I can't fucking handle it, dude. Calling the Democrats, the American Democratic Party, the left. Oh my God, dude. The left. The Democrats are the left. From my perspective, which is going to blow conservative minds, the Democratic Party is as right-wing as you should be legally allowed to go. Honestly. Like, after you go more right-wing than like Joe Biden, you should be sent to a sanitarium. So calling the Democrats left is so fucking frustrating, man.
On certain things like abortion, it's like they're unbudging with that, and it's like, all right, if we're pro-life, let's be pro-life in and outside the womb, you know, because they only focus on abortion. Well, what about war? Because now they want to send everybody over to Israel. So I'm like,
Violence should never be the answer to any issue.
Yeah, I'm generally anti-violence. I think violence should be avoided when possible, but sometimes it's got to be done. If you're under a monarchy and you're the citizenry and you're like, hey, we don't want to live under a monarchy anymore. Can we establish a democracy, please? And they say, no, we're going to keep subjugating you under this monarchy. You will have no say over the autonomy of your life. What are you going to do? You know? You got to revolt. You just have to. So if democratic means to solutions exist, then yeah, avoid the violent solution. If democratic means don't exist or aren't working, then you're left with no choice. Should never be the answer to any issue. Yes, they shouldn't be the answer. Will it sometimes end up that way? Also, yes.
3, 2, 1.
I mean, violence, assuming we have a functioning democracy, I think violence is bad for two huge reasons. One is because we don't want to condition people to feel like violence is the answer to political disagreements. And then two, we want everybody to be able to utilize some form of protest against the government. And when we endorse violence, we're now saying it's okay for even people we disagree with to use violence. And that can be really scary for a lot of different reasons. But I would say,
yeah, I guess I agree with Destiny here. While democratic means exist, yeah, try and use those institutions. If when they ultimately probably will inevitably push back, then you're left with violence, I guess. But while democratic means exist, yeah, try and use those outlets first.
Say in general, and 99%, where we're at today in the United States, we are not at the level of where violence is necessary to enact any kind of political change.
I wouldn't say that's entirely true. I mean,
Leftists would probably disagree. And to an extent, I would maybe disagree. Because, and I talk about this in almost every video these days, like, there are so many progressive or ostensibly leftist policy ideas that are popular with the American public. Like, paid family leave is like 85% of Americans support paid family leave. It's never going to be on the ballot because our politicians are owned by the capital owning class. But again, now we're getting into real leftist thought. Like, okay, so why aren't we doing a leftist revolt to try and instill these great policies? It's because we have no class consciousness. All sorts of things we could discuss on why we're not using our democratic means to establish these policies that we want. But that's almost a separate discussion.
There's a certain level of violence happening to marginalized communities. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with violence when it comes to the Palestinian rebellion that's been happening in Israel. I don't agree with Hamas killing people, that's terrorism. But at the same time, the violent uprisings that have happened, most of which have actually been peaceful, but still there is some sort of violence happening because they've been oppressed for so long. Like back in the Holocaust, people think that, oh, Jews went peacefully into the concentration camps. No, we were violent. We had uprisings. We fought back. At a certain point, there is violence in fighting back to oppression.
Agree, because I don't strongly agree with it, because I'm all about nonviolence in my life. What I practice, my spirituality, I'm all about nonviolence. But at the same time, as I organize and I'm on the ground and I'm at protests and I'm at demonstrations, by any means necessary means, right, quoting Malcolm X, that you have to have some form of disagreement with the state that's not listening to your needs as people, as free people. And sometimes that takes, rebellious actions like burning down banks or burning down institutions that are not listening to you. But as Black people in America, if we're only demanding liberty and justice, we're not asking for revenge, we're just asking for equality. And sometimes I think the state looks at us being a resistant as violence.
Sure, yeah, the reason I came over here, I was thinking more internationally. If a country is met with violence, there's really only one way to respond to that. I don't think Israel could go to Hamas and say, hey guys, can you just not do that again? When Hamas is already saying that they plan more attacks that they had on October 7th. So I think Israel has the right to defend themselves with violence.
Sure, I think there's a couple of key things to keep in mind here. So one is, when we talk about violence in response to political ideas, we have to be really careful that we don't redefine violence to mean literally anything that we don't like. Because I've noticed that people are doing these things where there is a white supremacist violence against Black communities because of the way money is distributed with our taxes. And people will take that very academic form of violence, and it's okay, I think, to have this analysis, but they'll take that academic form of violence and they'll say, now we can kill police officers and burn down buildings, or now we can engage in arson or destroy neighborhoods.
Oh, shut the fuck up, dude. That is the most uncharitable way to analyze that situation, dude. Holy shit.
My side is misrepresented by the media.
I mean, yes. Referring to center-left liberals as the left, or God forbid, as Amala has said multiple times in this video, the far left, is a gross misrepresentation. Joe Biden being called a communist. Countless Republicans have called Joe Biden a communist. Donald Trump recently has called Joe Biden a communist. I mean, Trump's not the media, but Fox News is calling Joe Biden a communist, Yeah, I would say that is a gross misrepresentation of my side, equating liberals like Joe Biden with actual leftists. But my real side, leftists, are also misrepresented by the media to an extent, but frankly, we're not really in the media. Leftists are so irrelevant. Communists, leftists, socialists, whatever, even center-left progressives, like your Bernie Sanders, etc., are barely represented anywhere. So, from my perspective, the answer is yes. Are conservatives misrepresented by the media or liberal media? Not really. Conservative media is... Liberal media has its own issues, of course, but conservative media, more broadly speaking, is going to be a lot worse in terms of misrepresenting facts, misrepresenting truths, skewing truths, misconstruing truths. Liberal media calling shitty conservatives out for being shitty, it's not really misrepresentation. They're just shitty. Their beliefs are just shitty.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Honestly, the media is controlled by the left.
No! The media is controlled by the left. He said with a straight face, the media is controlled by the left. That is the most inaccurate statement I have heard in the year of our Lord 2024. I mean, okay, let's be real. What he is referring to are liberals, not the left. Left of the modern Republican Party. Okay, maybe. I'm not saying the media is controlled by liberals. Well, some leftists would say that if you're equating conservatives and liberals together. In that case, like neoliberals, oh god, yeah. But my boy over here is not talking about neoliberals. Yes, 100% of the media is neoliberal. They're all controlled by capitalists and are mouthpieces for capitalists. But if we're talking like media consumption, dude, right-wing media for years has been like popping the fuck off. The right-wing media machine is fucking huge. Does not even come close to the liberal machine. And of course, there is no left machine. There is no real left-wing media anywhere. The biggest guy on the left that we have is Hassan Piker, and he does not even come close to being as impactful or big as even a mid-level conservative YouTuber, honestly. Like, I'm pretty sure Amala here alone has more subscribers on YouTube than Hassan Piker. All of our social media algorithms, YouTube's algorithm, fucking Jubilee is platforming far-right people. So no, I would not say the media is controlled by the left. It's more accurate to say neoliberals. But even liberal media, like not right-wing media, so like your CNNs or whatever the fuck, they don't have nearly the pull as modern right-wing media does.
I really never see any positive light shine on conservatives nor the right.
I wonder why. Also, I have no clue what he's talking about, honestly. Like, in what context is he talking about? I straight up don't know what he's talking about.
In the media ever, unless it's right-leaning media.
And to your point, what I think is really interesting to even just look at the conservatives who are here today, it's a pretty diverse bunch of people. And when I was on the left, my characterization of conservatives was like white, heterosexual, old man.
Dog. Jubilee found 4 people for their video. Members of the 118th U.S. Congress by race/ethnicity. Look at how white the Republican side of the aisle is compared to the Democratic side of the aisle, dude. The Democratic, at least in the House of Representatives, obviously the Senate is extremely white on both, but I mean, ultimately, you're talking about a center-right party versus a far-right party. But in the House, which is generally more progressive than the Senate with the Democrats, the racial makeup is approximately the racial makeup of the country. It's like 60% white and 40% non-white. Whereas with the Republican Party, it's extremely white. There's also this classic photo, if you all recall, Black Republican committee, it's just a bunch of fucking white people. I thought you brought the black guy. Blacks for Trump. Blacks for Trump. I don't know. But if you just look at the racial demographics of both parties, yeah, the Republican Party is just it is significantly more white. Just because Jubilee found a relatively diverse pool of 4 people for this fucking video doesn't mean shit, Amala. But again, if conservatives could analyze systems, if they could analyze data, they would not be conservatives.
And to having moved over that space and see, oh, there's way more people who just happen to have conservative beliefs, or maybe they don't agree with some of the woke stuff that's happening right now. I think we are often
Fuck you.
mischaracterized.
I do agree that right now, ironically, it seems like the left and the farther left have more kind of corporate media control in terms of how images are displayed. So you're going to feel like, if you're a conservative, that you're not acting.
The far left has corporate media control? What are you talking about, dude? Is trans people existing far left? Like to Destiny, like is acknowledging, is not hiding trans people in our media a far left position? Because I don't know what the fuck my man's talking about here.
Accurately represented, and the left maybe gets some more fair representation. But on platforms where conservatives run things, holy Christ, are people on the left completely and totally misrepresented. Like, how many times have I heard these stupid quotes from the WEF where it's like, oh, you want us to rent everything and own nothing, and you want us to eat bugs, and you're on your 57th booster shot. Today, if anybody's ever listened to Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, Billy Cunningham, like any of these people, these guys are not giving fair, accurate representation of the left. Their voices just tend to be more marginalized or smaller now in media because of how much corporate control kind of like bows to the woke agenda, I would say.
I'd like to push
Corporate media bows to the woke agenda. Again, maybe I'm just stupid and ignorant, but I ain't never heard any of these fucking dumbasses making this claim. Never. Not fucking once. Explain what the fuck they mean. Again, is it just trans people don't have to hide themselves in media anymore? Is that what's woke? Is that what's far left? I don't fucking know, dude.
back on that just a little bit. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but when it comes to
Of course you do. Of course you do. Because Destiny is a fucking reactionary and like 90% of the things I've heard him talk about.
right-wing media, maybe platforms like the Daily Wire or PragerU, they're very open about the fact that they're conservative. A lot of the mainstream left news, they'll present their opinion as fact. But like someone like Ben Shapiro, he'll tell everyone, listen to my show, listen to Pod Save America, figure out what you think is right, and you could figure out the facts based on what we're both saying. You don't see that as much from the left.
Just everything that he just said is wrong. No need to critique when just everything he just said was just wrong.
I want to push back on that because Ben Shapiro has stated a lot of opinions as facts.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah, and you've got like Amala, who works for PragerU, as he just said, who positions herself as right of center. I'm just right of center. No. The conservatives are the disingenuous ones, pretending their shitty beliefs are reasonable. And again, like, for certain things, yeah, like the way, like, I don't know, fucking CNN won't be like, platforming pro-life sentiment. Like, that's just fucking reality. When you've got 99.99% of the medical and scientific community being like, abortion access is a good thing, there's no reason to platform the people saying otherwise, or to present those ideas as equally valid, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I think that there are better examples to use within the Conservative Party that are more open about being opinionated, but Ben Shapiro is not.
Yeah, or Michael Knowles saying transgenderism should just be eradicated from society. It's like, so now y'all are really giving them a bullet to use against us.
It's the culture war bullshit.
Yeah,
Like,
cultural war
it's
bullshit,
just
yeah.
like that's what I'm so sick of between both sides, because I do think that both sides are misrepresented within media.
They went way too hard with the Bud
It's
Light
just-
thing. I'm
it's
like, let's let it go.
Especially on this topic now, I think in 2020 we all can agree every news station, besides most conservative news stations and podcasts, were posting black squares and saying that they were black people. But now, you know, what's going on with Israel and Hamas, you see some media companies taking the silent side or firing correspondents on CNN like Mark Lamont Hill, or firing other people on MSNBC if they have a neutral stance. So I agree with you. I think it's a cultural war on both ends, right? You have some liberal apparatuses who don't agree with some things that some liberals say.
Same with the right and how they did Tucker Carlson.
Both liberal and conservative media, even if they
What?
say blatantly stating facts, they're failing to contextualize those facts, because a story presented with blank facts looks very different when you actually hear like the build up and like really see what's going on underneath.
Mainstream media tends to misrepresent conservatives. We all can agree on that. But what they do very well is they misrepresent liberals in a positive light. We can all remember the news anchor going, "It's a mostly peaceful rally," and there's a building burning behind him. They've misrepresented the other side, saying
It's always the one singular fucking thing. Like, one building was on fire during one of the George Floyd protests or whatever. That is what they always seem to fucking go to. And that was fucking 3 years ago, bro.
look, this side is all sunshine and rainbows. Everything's fine. Pay no attention to those people being hurt in the back. And instead of actually elevating people who were advocating for peace and saying, please don't destroy these buildings, they focused on the destruction and everything else, but not the actual destruction. So I see both sides being completely misrepresentative, but misrepresented in different ways.
Shut the fuck up. Jubilee has brought on a lot of very, very stupid conservatives. He's up there, man. He's in the top 3. I can think of a couple other guys. There's Aldo, who also works for PragerU, by the way. And there's, forget the other guy's name. This guy in this thumbnail. You can see it there. That guy. He's also up there too. But Mario here, holy shit, bro.
The right being ignored and cast out as crazy, and the left going, we're the shining example of tolerance. Look at us. When underneath the surface, we see the truth.
Shut the fuck up. Unfucking believably stupid, this guy. And part of it is, you know, based from what he said, the right is just fucking crazy today. The right has gotten significantly more right. The left has barely inched left a little bit on social issues, on not wanting to kill every trans person and somewhat acknowledging, you know, socioeconomic inequality without actually having any real solutions to that. But I fucking hate how fucking stupid these people are, dude.
The American dream is still alive.
This is just a stupid fucking question, dude. I don't know. I don't care about the American dream. I want people to have more say over their lives. That's all I care about. And I guess in a sense, what people think of the American dream, it was meant to be a promise of that, but it never ended up being the reality. It was work to your bone and maybe you will be among the 0.01% to break out of this horrific rat race. But most likely you will not. So in a sense, that is still alive. We're working too much for such little pay, and the rich are only getting richer. They have more money than they need.
3, 2, 1.
I feel like when upward class mobility is so hard as it is right now, the American dream is it's either dead or it's on life support, because it's just damn near impossible for people to climb out of poverty. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks that they're going to be the next Jeff Bezos. You're closer to being on Skid Row than you're ever going to be to Jeff Bezos.
I think the American dream has become the American memory, Like I was thinking about this just outside of politics. Like, you know how a lot of people have nostalgia for like the past and stuff. It made me look at America and it's like, we're not gonna get back the America that we were post 9/11 when everybody was a little more unified outside of the Patriot Act and everything. We're not gonna get the America where all races could get along without people saying, oh, you're culturally appropriating, you're microaggressions, all that little stuff that keeps us divided. I don't think we'll get back to the America that we grew up in. I honestly don't. Like, I wanna be optimistic, but it's hard.
I just don't know that that's the point of the American dream. I think it shifts and it changes and it takes on the context of the time that it's in, where we had that sort of old school nuclear family, house with the white picket fence. That's changing with technology and corporations buying up properties and things like that. But I don't think the American dream is dead. I think it's taking on a new form. I think still there is no better place to be, no better place for progress. And as you watch people in other countries, what are they influenced by? They're influenced by America. Where do they want to be? They want to be in America. So it speaks to me that the dream is very
Leftists, critique that for me in the comments. Thank you.
much still
Do my
alive.
work for
Opportunity
me.
is very much still alive. It just looks
The
different.
dream or the idea?
The dream.
The dream.
The dream.
Yeah,
The
I
dream.
agree strongly with what you're saying here. That dream of being able to buy
Fuck this semantics vibes based bullshit, dude.
a house, having the nuclear family, being happy. That's still my view of the American dream. It is harder to attain, that's for sure. It might be dead here in California.
New York?
It's not, I can assure you.
I want to believe that the American dream can be like real. The more I've experienced life, the more I feel it is.
Fuck this nuclear level liberalism, dude. Jesus Christ.
A little more on the dead side. Like, it's like this idea that we're taught when we're growing up is that you work the hardest, you're gonna get the most, right? But that's just not true. And that's not the world we live in. And I know it's a little pessimistic. As I said, I want to be like the poverty cycle breaker in my family, but it's like, it feels next to impossible sometimes.
It may feel out of reach, but I started my adult life with $35 in my pocket, and I was a runaway because my parents locked me up. I saw them achieve the American dream of having a home and having beautiful children. I wanted that, and I worked hard. And now in my work in real estate, I see people achieving the American dream all day long. Sometimes California is a little outside of our price range. We got to go to another state. But that potential, that idea that I am free to choose to get a home, choose to get land, choose to start a business, that is still here. And I wholeheartedly believe that the American dream still rests in our hands. We just have to be strong enough to take it.
I think for individuals who immigrate to America, the American dream may still be alive and embedded within their spirit. But I think for BIPOC folk that are within America, the American dream is sort of a memory, and it's becoming less vibrant due to the housing crisis, due to, like you said earlier, gentrification, due to the lack of education. When the American dream was first, promoted within the 1960s, Reagan, Nixon, they funneled so much money within the American economy for people to go to college and not worry about it, for people to afford a home and not worry about it, for people to get a car and not worry about it.
Be able to work a minimum wage job and support a family.
Thank you, but now, since there's so many instances of people on the top, making sure they hold that wealth, we see so many BIPOC folk in America suffering and not being able to get to that middle class, right? The American middle class is no longer here.
So
let's
you're
be honest.
speaking just from the BIPOC perspective, not American.
I'm speaking just from the BIPOC perspective.
Isn't like the American dream supposed to apply to
Everybody,
everyone?
yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's the issue. It's like,
right.
when I heard you, I'm like, I think that's amazing that like some people do have the access to move and stuff like that. But like, what do you say for those people at the bottom who are working so hard and they can't? Like, they
I
just
feel like
can't.
a lot of the views you have of the American dream get so politically tainted that one of the things that sucks is for the cool things that are happening in America, you can't even take credit for it anymore. I hate that I chose like the most politically divisive topics, but like, for instance, like I personally think the COVID vaccine, that was a huge success of United States innovation and capitalism. I think our guns are really cool. I think that's like super awesome. You can shoot awesome firearms in the United States. I'm a proud gun owner from Nebraska. It seems like for all the things that exist that are good, we can't take credit for them anymore because all of them become so heavily politically divided that we start to have this huge doomer outlook on everything.
I think it's really hard for some people to have that optimistic outlook when there is so much in the way. Like I, as a disabled person, we're still forgotten about with marriage equality. We're still forgotten about when it comes to health mandates. For a lot of people who live this every day, for us, the American dream is dead, and it's been dead for a while.
I just think like as a fun, the fact that we're all here and like clothed and fed and have water, and we're here discussing ideas and like how to make this country a better place, to me, that completely signifies the American dream.
So because like 8 highly privileged Americans who get to benefit from the fruits of horrific capitalist exploitation get to stand in a Jubilee video means the American dream is alive? Dude, 40 million Americans are currently living in poverty conditions. We're the richest country ever. And, 12 to 15% of us are living in poverty. That's a sign of a successful socioeconomic system. That's just people living in literal poverty, not to account for everyone else struggling to make ends meet, to live a comfortable, fulfilling life. That should be the bare minimum anyone gets by working full time. You don't get that. So no, this is utter bullshit.
We are currently living it.
That's like, as you said, like a really optimistic view, like, oh, look how far we've come, but what if that's not enough for those people right now? Like, that sucks for the people living right now who don't have what they need.
That's the beauty of America. We are free to succeed or we are free to fail.
I take it back. He is the dumbest conservative Jubilee has gotten on one of these ever. He has jumped to the top. Yeah, bro, we are so free. Those 40 million people living in poverty, that is a choice they are actively making. There are no systemic problems keeping them down. There are no systemic barriers to success in America at all. Yeah, bro, just elevate yourself out of poverty. Just do it. Just fucking do it. Why don't poor people just get more money? What the fuck's wrong with you? There are no systemic barriers to someone having access to elevating themselves out of poverty or the knowledge on how to elevate themselves out of poverty. None of that exists. I mean, what I'm saying there, conservatives literally believe, they don't believe in systemic issues existing at all. They believe everything comes down to the individual. They believe everyone is born to the exact same conditions. There is no discrepancy between the zip code you are born in and how it relates to the success you might see in life. That does not exist. Just don't choose to be poor, bro. What's wrong with you?
Free to do whatever you want.
I'd rather be here. I'll just say that. I'd rather be in America.
Right.
Me too. Are we all gonna hug?
Yes. Hi.
Pleasant conversation.
Fucking liberals, dude.